Today on With the First Pick, we're talking the biggest draft deals of the 2024 class. Those players who, it turns out, weren't drafted as high as they should have been, but have made big impacts through the first 16 weeks of the NFL season. We'll also take a look at the updated draft order and what the teams near the top might be thinking down the stretch. But because it's Tuesday, and because Rick is back to help us celebrate Christmas and any holiday you might celebrate, you got to start things off with everyone's favorite segment, Over-Rick-Acitons. But first, I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman. We're joined by the lovely Claire today to produce this episode 209. Rick, before we get going, how many days to the 2025 NFL Draft? And welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Ryan and Claire. In case you didn't know, I know, Claire, you missed me. I could tell your heart was very heavy until I were able to lift your spirits today. So, but I will tell you this, there is 122 days left until the 2025 NFL Draft, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone out there. And it's great to be back on the show with you, Ryan. I know I didn't know if I got Wally pipped or not last week, but I was glad I was invited back right before Christmas. Is this my parting Christmas gift, or will I continue to be able to do the show with you?
Yeah, you'll definitely be able to do the show. But does this mean that you're back for Christmas week? The only show we're doing this week, by the way, because of the holidays. But is this our lump of coal for me and Claire? Like, what do we get out of this?
No, you get me. I'm like, you could I should have put a bow on my head and kind of came on the show. And
that would have been
yay.
Yeah. In case you missed it, last week, Rick was off helping the Jets find their GM and head coach. And that process is moving along, Rick. Is that what you'd like to say about that?
It'll be moving along, and it'll keep moving along. I do know that this is going to be a very long, tedious process. There'll be a lot of people, a lot of phone calls made already. We haven't even got into the hiring season yet, and you're not even eligible to start talking to people yet that are with other teams. So at the end of the regular season, then you can go ahead and write and ask for permission from other teams. You know, there's a whole different set of rules with potential head coaching candidates on whether they're playing, whether they have a bye the first week. So you have to be very familiar with those. But the GM candidates usually, because they don't have a direct correlation with the playoffs, that teams will usually grant you permission to start interviewing them once the regular season ends.
Yeah, I saw that your buddy Tom Pelissero with NFL Network, who you knew back during your guys' time together in Minnesota, he announced some of the names that had been reportedly interviewed. You can check that out on the old Twitter machine if you're interested. I don't want to put anyone on the spot here. By the way, shout out to Debo, taking another 2 weeks off to celebrate the Fighting Drew Allers winning this weekend over SMU pretty handily. So
did Debo go to the game?
He was at the game.
Oh my God.
He probably ran onto the field, knowing Debo, but that's why Claire's here doing the Lord's work. And they'll face Boise State at Boise State on December 31st, the Nittany Lions will. So I'm sure we'll get through some of the college playoff conversations and players and talking points in the coming weeks.
Can I ask you a question while we're talking about this before we get into the Over-Rick-Acitons? Was there any games that were even competitive? And
no.
You liked it? Does the Boise States deserve to get a bye? Does the Arizona States deserve to get a bye?
They do.
Why?
Based on the way that the system was laid out. Is it perfect?
I'm not saying how the system was laid out. Do you agree with it? Or should it be how you're ranked at the end of the season?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Because that's been an argument with the NFL. Like, we're going to see it this year, right? You're going to see the Vikings, who had another big win yesterday, and they're 12-2, and the Lions now potentially that team that ends up 13-3 or 13-4, or whatever the records are going to end up being, they can go all the way from number 1 seed to the 5th seed in the playoffs.
Right.
And always the argument was, if you win in your division, that you should get home field advantage. There's only, not like we're seeing in the college playoffs, there's only one, the number 1 seed gets the home field advantage in the first week bye. But that's a huge competitive advantage if you can get home field advantage during the wild card weekend. And here you're seeing, that's been the argument. After the regular season, should you throw out whether you won the division or not, and just go by best record and how you seed in the playoffs?
Yeah, and that's one of those things because it was, God, it may have been 15 years ago now. You remember when the Rams, I think they were still in St. Louis and either finished 500 or below 500 and won the division?
Yeah, and got a home
Pe-
and got a home playoff game.
Yeah, people were fired up about that. And that part I get. It gets weird, though. Like if a team wins 10, 11 games and wins their division, and then you have a team like the Vikings who may have to travel with 13 wins or whatever, and it's unfair for them. I understand that. But if a team wins 7 games, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Well,
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah, well, you're like supposed to be the GM of the show, the commissioner of the show, yet you cannot come up with
no answers,
opinions on how you think this should be run. I am looking for your advice. I mean, I'm just
we're in a bad way if you're looking for my advice. Let me just say that, okay? By the way, Rick, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I don't know if people say that anymore, but that's a saying that my grandma used to say. But I think, and fingers crossed, you'll be available. I think we're going to be able to swing a little Shrine Bowl action before we go to the Senior Bowl. So I'm excited about that. Got some I's to dot and some T's to cross, but I think Professor Debo is making that happen. So hopefully that'll be a thing. And I mean, that's a month away too. So we got some stuff to do. You got some stuff to do. But right now, we do a little Over-Rick-Acitons. I think everybody knows what it is. But if you don't, premise is pretty simple. Have a few topics from the NFL weekend. Rick doesn't know what they are. Going to get his reactions in real time. All right, let's get to it. All right, Claire, I'm going to throw a curveball here first. I didn't write this one down for you, but I was thinking about it as I was watching
the game. Did Claire contribute? Did she try to throw me off my in this improv session of the
podcast? She had a question for you before the show. I don't know if you want to answer that one on the air about her Chicago Bears. So I'll let her ruminate over that one. I'll ask my first question. I know what the answer is going to be, but I was thinking about it. Huge win yesterday for your Las Vegas Raiders because there are a lot of questions about Antonio Pierce's future. Obviously, the quarterback situation is in flux. Aiden O'Connell came back after the knee injury last week. Desmond Ridder played, and they struggled to move the ball offensively. This week against the Mac Joneses and Jacksonville Jaguars, they look pretty good. My question to you is, Rick, they are no longer the number 2 seed by virtue of that win. They are now the number 6 seed. In terms of the draft order, they have the 6th overall pick. I guess they're not a seed. And I know what you're saying. You're going to be sitting in the working suite, pumping your fist, cheering wildly as the game winds down and you win that game. Any thought, any point between the end of that game and right now about, geez, we got to do some work to get up there to get that quarterback?
No, you want to go out there and win. You're a professional. They get paid to go out and win, and those players are playing for their future too, whether they're going to be, if there is a new regime that comes in, a new head coach that comes in, their tape is their resume, and it's their resume for other teams too. So they're going to want to see, did you quit or did you fight your arse off to keep, even though you're having an unsuccessful season to the end. So from a general manager standpoint, I would be excited we won, because then you can feel good for a week. You can actually not kick your dog on Christmas Day, and you can actually open up presents and feel happy that you're with your family and everything, right, because you got that win. But you also know you're going to have to do something to get a quarterback. And the biggest question I'm going to have when I'm sitting in that seat is Sanders or Ward. Everybody's assuming the number 1 and number 2 players off the board because they're the only 2 first-round quarterbacks worthy of going up to trade for. We saw Chicago, sorry, Claire, go up and trade for Mitch Trubisky. We saw Kansas City, who hit it right, traded up to go get Patrick Mahomes. So you're going to have to make that determination. So from a general manager standpoint, your seat just got a little tougher, because if I was a number 2, then it's like, okay, yeah, I'll take a swing at one of these 2 quarterbacks, whichever one I like. But now, when you're down, are you willing to give up future draft picks that you believe strongly that one of these 2 quarterbacks are going to be your franchise-saving quarterback of the future?
And the other thing to keep in mind, the Patriots currently pick 2. They're not going to take a quarterback. The Jaguars aren't taking a quarterback at 3. That brings me to point 4. The Tennessee Titans, I'm going to revisit them in just a second. Maybe, maybe not. Brian Callahan's ending his first year. It's been a huge disappointment, and Will Levis is not his quarterback. He benched him last week.
They are not a soft team. Don't ask Brian Callahan that in a press conference.
Oh, that's what happened yesterday?
A couple of days ago, they asked him if his team was soft, and he
Well,
went
he's
on a
got some
pretty
fire
good
in his belly.
tirade. Yeah,
He went off?
he went off. You got to keep up with the NFL news, even though I'm involved in this.
You got
I
a
do
side
try to
job?
stay up and see what's going on in the NFL. So
Maybe I'll try that. Got 2 weeks
Yeah.
left in the season. I'll try it.
yeah, maybe
And
that
then
should be your New Year's resolution.
Pay
I will
attention.
read up and try to stay with current news in the NFL. Was it
All right.
what was it in school? Current events. Keep up with the
Current events. That's right. Oh my gosh. We're dating ourselves with current events. And number 5, the Cleveland Browns. I don't know what they're going to do. I think I remember reading that Deshaun Watson's going to come back after the Achilles injury, but I would draft a quarterback, but no one asked me. My point is that at 6, there's a 60% chance that one of those quarterbacks is still on the board if a team doesn't trade up for Las Vegas, should they stay there. But that's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts. And then, of course, the Sam Darnold situation, the Justin Fields situation about what happens to those quarterbacks who are going to be free agents. Some Vikings fans agree with you, by the way, when you said a few weeks ago that re-up Sam Darnold in Minnesota because there's no rush for JJ. So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. I mentioned the team that currently is set to pick 4th, the Tennessee Titans. You mentioned Brian Callahan and him not taking lightly being called soft. They got run out of the building for the first 40 minutes against the Colts, and they came back there a little bit, the Fighting Mason Rudolphs. If you're Rand Carthon, the GM, Tennessee, and your coach just benched Will Levis last week after a 3-interception performance, what's the quarterback situation in 2025 look like?
That doesn't look good.
What are you doing, Rand?
Well, ask Rand. Maybe Rand will be on the show. Maybe I'll get Wally Pipp by Rand. I don't know.
They'll hire you in Tennessee.
They need to do something at quarterback, in my opinion, because I don't think that Will Levis is the answer. And I think you've seen enough over the last 2 years. Have you seen any progress? And I think it's been the same story. Now, does it change? I don't know. But right now, is he going to be, like I said, the question I have for you, Ryan Wilson, is that you're the GM seat. You're throwing me in this seat, and I'm just a supporting actor. And Claire's going to get me a shot as maybe a mall cop on Hallmark someday, because I did put that on her. That's my goal in life, is to be an extra on Hallmark. But at what point do you pull the plug on these quarterbacks? And are they in the right situation? Look at Sam Darnold. How many teams did he have to go through? And now, you've seen his performance yesterday. Well, now it helps that you got Justin Jefferson throwing to.
Who drafted that guy?
Yeah. Then you look at Baker Mayfield, who is maybe the grittiest competitor I've ever seen.
Right.
And he went through 4 teams himself. So at what point do you figure out, do we have to grind through this? Or if I keep this guy here, is he eventually going to cost me my job? Or is one of these guys that are struggling going to be the next Baker Mayfield, the next Sam Darnold? You know who I think it is that will resurrect himself?
Who?
And everybody's going to yell at me, and I don't care.
Okay.
I think if Daniel Jones gets with the right people, that he could be one of those success stories down the road.
No, I don't hate that, because the first year with Brian Daboll, that was the best he ever played. And then injuries caught up with him and probably got into his own head.
I'm not saying pay him his contract. I'm just saying if he gets with the right people and resurrects his career, he may be one of those quarterbacks that, if he does get in the right situation, could be a next Sam Darnold or the next Baker Mayfield, or even, the Geno Smiths of the world, who's bounced around 100 places.
Right. If you put Daniel Jones on the Rams, you would imagine he'd be more successful than he was on the Giants. But I'm not going to push back too heavily on that. I will say this. One of the issues we had with Will Levis coming out is just felt like he was so tightly wound. And you're sort of seeing that. I'll give him credit. When he got benched, he said all the right things. He's going to work hard. He's going to be successful wherever he goes, so on and so forth. He didn't pout and moan. But I think a cautionary tale is our buddy Bryce Young, benched after 2 games. And now Bryce is playing some of his best football in the NFL. he had a rough week last week, but this week he bounced back. And the 3 weeks prior to that, he had played pretty well. So 4 out of 5 weeks.
And he's brought him back to win games
Yeah.
at the end. And I think, and this is my philosophy, is that these guys that are so muscle bound up top,
Yep.
The Tim Tebows of the world, right? Who was a bound up now quarterback. Do these guys have enough flexibility through their upper body to make all that off schedule releases and things like that? Or are they just so tightly wound? It's a 90-mile-an-hour fastball or nothing. And, talking to some former head coaches that were very successful with quarterbacks, they think that a lot of it can be with the way these quarterbacks are built when they're so muscle bound up top, that does have an effect on their accuracy or their ability to put touch on the ball.
No, I get it. And you pointed that out at Will Levis's pro day, his struggles to throw the ball going to his left. He's had other struggles, just making poor decisions with the ball. So we'll see.
And he almost knocked you out when he threw a ball 90 miles an hour to sideline when you weren't paying attention, when you were trying to at least learn how and what to look for at pro days in our first venture out there together.
And I thank you for that leadership that you displayed in Lexington, Kentucky. And then I almost got run over by a receiver at the Drake May Pro Day last year, and some scouts are making fun of me for flinching. I can't catch a break, Rick. I'm going to start watching up there in the catwalk, so everyone will leave me alone.
If you need a fence, I'll get you one up there.
I want to ask you about Bo Nix. He's a game manager, and that's not a bad thing. They lost to the Chargers and probably one of Justin Herbert's best games in recent memory on Thursday night. They have 2 games. The Bengals and the Chiefs left, and they're not guaranteed a playoff spot. So
that was a big loss for them.
Big loss.
Because the last 2, technically, if they don't win those next 2, they could be out of the playoffs.
Absolutely. And how are you managing a rookie quarterback who's been playing football since basically 2023 without a break because of the pre-draft process, the All-Star games, the combine prep, and then the rookie wall because he hasn't played 17 games in a season ever? Is there anything you're doing, I don't know if it's a general manager, but talking to the coaching staff about, or the trainers, like to keep this guy mentally in the game and physically?
Well, that's part of the head coach's responsibility. It's not the GM's responsibility because they're with him every day in the meetings. You're out there seeing him in practice. Do you need to back off a little bit? And you have all this sports science. You have all these team sports psychologists now. Is it too much? Do you overload them with all this stuff? But that, to me, is the secret sauce of a coach, is knowing when to back off or when to put the pedal to the metal. And what point of this season, especially these rookies who, like you said, haven't had a break since the beginning of the training camp of their last year in college, and they've been going all the way through with the combine, with the pro days, with the off-season workouts, with the training camp, with the long season. So I think that's the way you manage it now. Whatever they did with Jaden Daniels, because he had that little lull in that one certain point of the year, but that lull seemed to have I don't know how to say that correctly. Lull. Is that right, Claire? Lull?
I don't know. That's not how they say it in Chicago, I don't think.
Definitely not. No.
Claire, how do you say Lull?
Lull.
Oh, okay. Claire can say it. Interesting. Must be Ohio thing, Rick.
Yeah. Well, so whatever that is, Jaden Daniels got over that
right quick. Yeah, he did.
Way to go, Claire.
All right, we're gonna take a break, but you got to give me a one-word answer before we go to the break. Would the Titans be better a year from now if they traded for Kirk Cousins?
And not the Kirk Cousins I've seen over the last 4 weeks. It's a shell of himself.
Crazy.
So no.
Okay. Oh man, yikes, man. All right, Claire. Let's take a quick break and then come back and talk about some of the biggest draft steals in 2024 right after this. Man, already got Masters commercials. Paramount Plus and CBS. April. Love it. All right, Rick.
How many days? Probably less than 122 days until the Masters.
Yeah. I think it's
on CBS and Paramount Plus.
that's right.
And thank you for helping me get my Paramount Plus subscription again.
Yeah,
I've
we
been
re-upped
watching.
that for him, Claire.
Yeah,
They hooked him up.
they re-upped it for me. I'm starting on a Lioness.
Season 2, I believe, right?
Season 2, and then it goes to Showtime. So I've been watching a show called The Agency, which
All
is
right, how's
pretty
that?
good. Yeah, it's quite the endeavor, and everything you get on Paramount Plus is incredible.
Must be nice to be retired, have all that free time and watch all these shows.
Yeah, nothing going on.
Nothing going on. All right, let's look at your biggest draft steals. Yours and mine, but yours are more important, obviously. From the 2024 draft, which is whatever 122 minus 365 is, 240 days ago. We've done the 2024 redraft. We did that a few weeks ago. We did our rookie, all rookie team with the first pick style a few weeks ago as well. So we've talked about some of these names, but some of the names we haven't talked about. So I'm going to start with 2 running backs you have on your list, Rick. Both 4th round picks. And the first question I'm going to ask you, Bucky Irvin, of course, from Oregon, went to the Bucks. Braylon Allen, Wisconsin to the Jets. He was Wisconsin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Both 4th round picks. The first question for you is, what round would you draft them now, knowing what you know?
Bucky Irving, who I think has had a major impact on that Tampa Bay offense. They couldn't run the ball last year at all. And not only what he does in a run game, and I think people I guess they didn't see that Oregon offense transferring to the NFL, but this guy's vision, his balance, he runs tough for a smaller back. He's an excellent receiver out of the backfield. He has made a difference for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and I don't think they would be as successful on offense. I know they got Rashad White, and they have your boy Sean Tucker from the Qs, who was injured all the time in college. But this kid was a spark plug that they needed on the offense to go along with all their other weapons. And then when they lost Godwin, I think this kid has really carved out a nice role for them. And so I would probably have looked at him in the 2nd round right now, the way he's been playing and the impact he's had for Tampa.
No, I don't hate that at all. Yeah, I liked him at Oregon. It's just I think he's running harder now than he did at Oregon. Maybe that's just a usage question, or sometimes, guys get in the NFL, they get different coaching, whatever. But I've been impressed with what he's done. What about Braylon Allen, who's sharing the load with they have Isaiah Davis, who's also a rookie, and they, of course, have Breece Hall in New York.
Yeah, this one was a little bit of, I don't want to say a projection. And I just go back to what I seen when they played down in Miami. Like this week, he had 2 carries for 5 yards and 1 catch for 5 yards. And I don't think they utilize this kid enough, because when he does get his opportunities, he takes advantage of it. He's only 20 years old.
Right.
He is a big physical back that is a punishing runner between the tackles. And when you watch that Miami game, down in Miami game, he is trucking dudes now. But what I was surprised, and I didn't see enough out of Wisconsin tape that we watched, was that he's a very good receiver out of the backfield. And I think if they gave him more carries to take some of the load off of Breece Hall, that this kid would be one of those type of backs like a Brian Johnson in Washington, that's going to wear defenses down just because of his size and the physicality that he runs with. So I know no one's talking about this kid because he doesn't get many opportunities. Like I said, the biggest game, the most opportunities. I went back and watched the Miami game that was in Miami, and you can see that this kid has a chance to be a really good back if they give him the opportunity to be one. So I really liked what I seen out of him. Liked him, the biggest thing was what he was going to run, and if he's not fast. But this guy has very good vision, but the physicality he runs with, I really thought that he's going to be, when he gets his opportunity, going to be a really good back in this league.
And I don't think he actually ended up running the combine. I don't know if he ended up having a number on. We may have talked about that before. Did you take him in the 3rd round, or is he still a 4th round, or just based on projection?
I would take him in 1 round up, just based on the flashes that I've seen.
All right, I'm going to get to my two, and then we'll circle back to your last guy. You thought Debo was going to be on the show, clearly, with your other pick here. I'm going to go, and Rick doesn't know these, Claire. Your right-hand man for years, George Payton, is drafting some dudes now.
Is that a really good draft?
I ain't going with Bo Nix. We talk enough about Bo Nix. But, I'm going to go with my one dude that I've loved forever, Jonah Ellis, third-round pick edge rusher, who's had a great season. He was one of my bold predictions. I think it said 8 or 9 sacks. He has at least 5. I don't think he had a sack on Thursday, but he was getting after a little bit. And the other guy I'm going to go from that draft class, Devon Vele, the wide receiver taken in the 7th round. Jonah was taken in the 3rd round out of Utah, and Devon went to Utah as well, so they were teammates there. Saved money on that pro day. Just went there and drafted all the kids on the Utah team. But Devon is tall, and when I watch, he's older. I think he's 25 years old, but he is playing at a high level, and he was good in college. But I love the way they're using him. He's sort of a counter to what they do with Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims. And I like what he's brought to the table. Is he a number 1? No. Is he a number 2? No. But he's doing the job that's asked of him. He's making plays as a 7th round pick. I would take him a couple rounds earlier than that. I'd probably still take him day 3, but early day 3.
Yeah.
So I love what they've done with him. And you know this, when you get production out of rookie 7th round picks, that's considered a grand slam, right?
Yep. Yes, it is.
And my other guy, and we've talked about him to death, and his dad, Luther Ellis. And Jonah has 3 or 4 brothers playing around the league. I think one's in New England, maybe another one in New Orleans. I'm not sure. But he's an edge rusher out of Utah, and he's got some juice. He was a 3rd rounder. I'd take him a round higher. I at one point last year during the pre-draft process, I think I had him going in one of my mock drafts in round 1, the bottom of round 1, just because of the juice with which he plays. So he's a fun story. And, he makes life pretty Nick Bonito makes life pretty easy for the other edge rushers out there. Nick Bonito's a fun story, too. Someone who weighs 245-ish maybe and doing the athletic things he's doing. He's going to get paid very soon as well. But those are my 2 rookies who have been considered draft steals at this point. Your guy, Mr. Payton, doing a great job stocking up that roster for the other Mr. Payton, Sean. All right, let's come back to your 3rd player on your list of biggest draft steals. This is when you just mail it in. I mean, this is a layup. Cooper Dejean, 2nd round pick. Only reason he was a 2nd round pick, probably, I would imagine, was a foot injury. You think?
Yeah, I think that. And I don't know if he ever ran before the combine or not, but he should be. I mean, I thought they got at number 40. So there was teams that kept passing him, and he didn't go to the 40th pick in the 2nd round. But the versatility he brings to this defense, they play him over the slot. Yesterday he had came in and stripped Jaden Daniels when they were in the red zone, recovered a fumble. This guy flies around on the field. For this guy this size to play the Nick the way he does, because there is no question about his physicality in the run game, and he's a really good cover guy. And I think when you can get a guy that can play multiple positions plus give you something as a punt and kickoff returner, that this guy really, really has had a big – and I'm not saying Quinyon Mitchell, although he got beat, I think, for his first touchdown yesterday. But this kid has not gotten beat for a touchdown, and he's a tone setter on defense, and he gives them something in the return category. So I thought this guy, and we had him going in the 1st round, I think, in a lot of our mocks, and probably slipped to the 2nd. So I thought it was great value to get a guy there at the 40th overall pick that should have been maybe a top 20 pick the way he's been playing this year.
Absolutely. I mean, I talk about home run drafts. Howie Roseman crushed that. Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator, has been the beneficiary because, I mean, again, credit. I don't know how Washington – I know Jalen Hurts got hurt and you had to rely on Kenny Pickett as the Eagles, but Washington turned the ball over 5 times and still beat the best defense in the NFL. And that's something to hang your hat on as you're trying to create momentum down the stretch.
Well, if Devontae Smith doesn't drop that slant route, it may be a totally different story.
Yeah.
So, but give credit to the Commanders. I mean, they hung in there and they kept fighting, and credit to Dan Quinn and how he has that team believing. And even when it looks as bleak as it did through a lot of that game, they kept fighting back. And then that last drive that Jaden Daniels took him down in that throw for for the go-ahead touchdown at the end of the game was something pretty unique.
I'll say this as well, and we talk about where we're going to slot these kids and who's a first rounder and who's a fourth rounder. Olamide Zacchaeus, number 14.
Yeah.
Where'd he go? I can't remember where he went to college, but I remember seeing him at the Senior Bowl. I think he went undrafted, but he hung around. He played with the Falcons for a while. Guy's reliable, number 3, does his job, makes big plays, doesn't make mistakes. You can play in the league for 6, 7, 8 years if you just do your job. So he's a fun story too. I think he's UVA, but I have to double check. All right. My third person on my list. And this is a guy, and this is again on me. This guy I liked a lot during last fall. And then he had a tough go of it in his bowl game, the semifinals. And I let that sour me a little bit. I shouldn't have. That's on me. He ended up being a second-round pick of the Ravens. Roger Rosengarten, the right tackle out of Washington. They put his ass in there as starter, and he hit some speed bumps early on, but he's been good, man. And they had Patrick McCarry out there, and they moved Patrick to the left guard, and now Roger Rosengarten's been manning the right side, and he's been incredibly solid. And now he played opposite Troy Fautanu last year at Washington. Fautanu was the first-round pick of the Steelers. But they had some dudes all over that offense, starting with Michael Penix Jr., who got his start yesterday, Roma Dunze, the 2 Jalen's at wide receiver, and then the left tackle and right tackle. So I love the idea of Roger Rosengarten playing above perhaps expectations as a second-round pick, because the offensive line was one of the biggest issues facing the Ravens. And, man, this offense, having Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson help, but this offense is hard to stop. And
yeah, Baltimore has always been really good at identifying the type of offensive lineman they want. And even when you think it's a hole, and I don't know off the top of my head who the offensive line coach is, but they have done an incredible job developing young guys as they come in and through that program.
Absolutely. So I would consider taking him in round 1. I don't have any issue with that. Late round 1. I know there was some buzz. I'm trying to see if I can find the offensive coordinator. Todd Monken, of course, is the offensive coordinator. I don't know who the offensive line coach is. I'll get you that. I don't have any issue taking Roger Rosengarten late round 1 because we know what the production looks like. And if you're asking me, would the Steelers be better off with Roger Rosengarten or Troy Fautanu, Roger's the answer because Troy hasn't played this year. Ravens took it to the Steelers on Saturday. Rick, that was not fun to watch. Also, it tells you how important one player is in George Pickens. Because if you can't stretch the field, you just have 8 guys standing at the line of scrimmage, daring you to run Najee Harris, and then you 3 and out your way to the loss. It's incredible how important he is. And we talked previously about George Pickens perhaps trying to get his head on straight, because when his head's on straight, they're a tough offense to stop. All right, I got some honorable mentions because I always do extra credit. And these are some of the guys we've talked about at various points through the fall. Andrew Phillips, the slot corner for the Giants. He was a 4th-round pick. He's played well. Tarheeb Steele, we talked about. He made my all-rookie team a few weeks ago. 5th-round pick of the Chargers out of Maryland. He has a handful of picks. He's played well. And Cam Hart's played well opposite him, the guy you liked out of Notre Dame. And then, of course, can't not mention Peyton Wilson. 3rd-round pick because of the injuries. He's a top 50 guy. I think if he's healthy, maybe higher than that. All right.
I came up with a couple free agents that I thought.
Yeah. What do you got?
I did Jalen Coker, the receiver.
Oh, man. He is playing out of his mind.
Yeah, for Carolina. I thought
Holy Cross, baby.
Yeah. Whittington with the Rams.
Out of Texas. I thought he was going to be after the preseason we talked about. I thought he was going to be the next Puka Nacua, but he's a special teams maniac.
Yeah. And those were kind of the 2 as I was going down through some college free. And even he's had flashes better than I thought he would. I thought he wouldn't make it, but we had high expectations on him his junior year. Fell off the cliff the last year he played at Miami of Florida, but he flashed some pass rush stuff for me as Leonard Taylor, who was a free agent out of the Jets, that also has had a pretty nice, value as a college free agent. I thought that was great value.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. I think we talked about him in the preseason and maybe early in the season as one of these rookies who had a good week. And then I lost track of the Jets as they were struggling their way through the season. But I don't know how you go from top 50 to off the map. I don't know if the off-field stuff or what, but good for him. Braden McGregor's on that roster as well out of Michigan. I liked him a lot, the edge rusher from Michigan. I don't know how he's doing. I know he made the team early in the fall. I thought he had a chance to be a –
And there was one guy I had on there, and it's a tribute to Claire. Austin Booker till he can't figure out his 4th and 1, and you don't jump off sides in the middle of it.
Was he playing well prior to that, though? I saw that play.
Yeah, they don't play him a lot, but then,
Yeah.
He's flashed some as a pass rusher, and he's raw. But we saw the talent. We saw the talent down at the Senior Bowl. And I think he's going to be a pretty good edge rusher in this league because he plays hard, and he lit it up in the preseason, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Kept watching him. He was one of our stars in the preseason as we
Against
broke
the
down
Buffalo
some
game.
of this, rookies. But then he made the bonehead offsides on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, whatever it was.
Yeah, in his defense, Johnny Newton did the same thing. He cost him that game against the Steelers, and Johnny Newton was making plays yesterday. Their early 2nd-round pick for the Washington Commanders. Austin Booker. The Bears had 4 draft picks last year. They traded back into the draft to get Austin Booker early on day 3, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
We also talked to him at the combine, and I told him he looked like a tall version of Russell Wilson, and he looked like he was going to punch me in the face.
Well, it's because you don't know how to communicate to these kids.
I really don't.
Let me do that part. Let me handle that part. Yeah.
You be the intermediary. All right. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to wrap things up. This is like the last day of school right before Christmas break. We're just sort of breezing through this. We're going to show some movies, pass out some candy. I'm going to take a quick break, come back, and we'll look at the updated draft order, have some thoughts on the top 10-ish picks right after this.
At CBS Sports Galazzo Network, we're bringing you the game.
Madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Whoa.
And all day long!
24/7.
So, Rick, George Warhop is the offensive line coach for the Ravens. He took over for Joe D.L. Sanders, who passed away.
Right.
So they're playing with motivation for that reason. But George Warhop is the –
And George's been a really good offensive line coach. He's been around.
Okay.
He's been in Cleveland. He's been in Tampa. He's been all over the place. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, clearly. Good for them and good for old Roger Rosengarten. All right, let's take a look at the updated draft order here. The last few minutes we have together. Always like to joke, Rick. We'll see you next year, right around New Year's. That always gets a good chuckle. That's a Rick joke if I've ever heard one.
Stupid.
All right, as I mentioned, the Vegas Raiders won a game and dropped from 2nd to 6th. That's a punch in the gut long term.
What are we doing right now? Reggie Trey's flying everywhere in the box, in the old GM box.
I know. Mark Davis is pounding the wall, telling Aiden O'Connell to turn the ball over. Giants have a clear path to the 1st overall pick, 1st or 2nd, and there's no situation where it's not.
No disrespect to the Giants, but is that one of the worst looking teams there is in the NFL right now?
It's not disrespectful. I mean, Drew Lock looks lost. Tommy DeVito looked lost, taking a beating. Daniel Jones looked lost. I don't know. Like, I have no idea what's going on in the locker room, but just the body language doesn't look great. And you know what? I heard Lee J. Doozable and Kyle Long talk about this on Pushing the Pile last week. Can you get a sense as a general manager walking through the locker room the last few weeks of the season when everything is clearly out of reach and you're a 2 or 3 win team? Can you get a sense when people are like, all right, I'm looking forward to Bermuda?
Yeah, especially on that last game when their cars are loaded with all their suitcases and the car was running since the end of the 3rd quarter.
I mean, there's nothing you can do, right? You're just trying to – people are literally going through the motions at that point, correct?
You're hoping that they go out there and still put everything and all the time they have, and let's win one for the Gifford us last week, give it our best effort. But you have to remember now, these guys are playing for jobs too. So like I said earlier in the podcast, your tape is your resume. So people are going to be watching.
So the Giants are probably going to lock up the 1st or 2nd pick. Speaking of playing hard, the Patriots played hard on the road in 0 temperatures, essentially, in Buffalo. I think Josh Allen banged up his right hand. I haven't looked this morning to read any reports on it, but he looked troubled in the last third of that game when it was pretty clear that the Bills were going to win it. But Drake May made some mistakes. It happens, but he's also making some good plays. They made some turnovers that cost them a chance to keep that game closer. But if you're there at number 2 and you're the Patriots, other than entertaining trade down offers, you taking Travis Hunter, or are you going to take an offensive lineman to help Drake May?
I think that's how, what's your philosophy? If Travis Hunter's that high on your draft board, and I talked about the horizontal board, and the next player is below that, Travis Hunter is like, I don't know if there's been a difference maker like that coming out.
Right.
So if I'm in the same horizontal category and I need an offensive tackle and I have a Travis Hunter, and that's how they had to grade it, then take the offensive tackle. In my opinion, Travis Hunter is in a whole different category.
Right.
So I don't know how you do not take a player like that.
He's just a game changer. Like,
And I watched his exhibition at the Colorado basketball game. He put on a dunk show. Did you see that?
how'd that look?
Oh my God. Will you actually get out there and watch current events and things pop up? Oh, let me see this kid's athletic. He went between his legs and then a over the top dunk. It was ridiculous.
Do you think he's 6'1"?
I'm going to, if he's small, like 5'9", then no. But if he's 6'1" or 6 foot and 109, he's unique. He's a unicorn. Take the
I'm
unicorn.
just saying he could be doing that at 6 feet, making those dunks. He's so athletic.
He looks like he's 7 feet the way he was jumping out of the gym. I mean, the guy.
By the way, just so we're clear, while you're out there watching basketball highlights, I'm out here grinding tape on these Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl kids, so I know who's who.
Well, good. You're going to have to help me because I'm way behind on that right now.
Yeah, he's just a game changer. Do you think he's more electric than Percy Harvin, who you drafted?
I think he's a smoother athlete.
Ooh.
Percy was so explosive and twitchy and powerful. This kid is unique from an athletic standpoint, like one I've never seen. I don't know if Percy can go out and do corner stuff like Travis Hunter can.
That's true. Jaguars currently are sitting at 3. Our buddy, the mayor of Jacksonville, Pete Prisco, thinks it should be a big body. They just re-upped Walker Little left tackle, so I'm assuming there'll be a big body on the other side of the ball. Mason Graham at 3. Would you take him that high?
I would definitely consider it.
Yeah, me too. And let's say, for the purposes of our conversation here, that this draft order stays exactly the same 122 days from now, and the Tennessee Titans are picking 4th. The New York Giants have taken whoever their favorite quarterback is. What are you doing it for if there's another quarterback on the board?
I'm taking him.
Yep.
I have to.
Yep.
I have no choice because if I don't take him, Cleveland or Vegas are taking him. So you have the swing right now. If it stayed like this, you have to take the next quarterback.
Couldn't agree
more.
more.
Everybody else is shite out of luck.
Yep, SOL for sure. If they're looking for a quarterback, they are. And then, you trade Will Levis for whatever, day 3 pick, and you let someone else worry about Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, whomever else is available as a free agent.
I talked to a very prominent retired coach that was considered the quarterback guru of his day.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him and I asked him, the Sanders, the Wards, which he has some concerns with because he doesn't think they play on time.
Yep.
You know who his quarterback is?
Oh, no. He better not have said Carson Beck. How does he get over the middle of the season?
I'm just telling you, what he looks at quarterbacks was pretty unique to learn and listen to. And he's done some phenomenal stuff with quarterbacks. You would say there's no way that guy has a chance.
Yeah.
But what he told me and what he's evaluated so far on Carson Beck is he's the only one that can play right now with rhythm and timing within the pocket. The other stuff he can clean up, some of the technical things he can clean up. But the one thing that impressed him out of all these guys, he's the best rhythm and timing thrower from the pocket.
Do you have any concerns about Carson Beck?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about it. How many times do we shift our quarterback orders? Like
that's true.
Every other
I get it.
week
And then look, that carries a lot of weight. I just so nervous about taking. Like, would you take Carson Beck in the first round?
I've been nervous about it, but if we keep going through this, and this guy has put 2 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame.
Well, you better sign him to be the quarterbacks coach then. That should be your first hire before you draft Carson Beck.
We could do the dollar bet that Carson Beck will end up being the 3rd quarterback. No, I don't want to say Carson Beck may be the best quarterback out of this class before.
All right, you know what we're going to do real quick before we get out of here? We got a little time, Claire. I'm going to pull up. I was going to do this anyway. I'm going to pull up the dollar bets just so we can revisit it. I should have sent this to Claire. Maybe I'll send it to you real quick, Claire. And then, because we have so many things we got to keep a track of here. So let me do this real quick. And here are the dollar bets. Oh man, these are some bad ones. Okay, here we go. Carson Beck is a top 10 overall pick. So we already got that one. You said yes. So I made $1 there. Drafted first.
When did we do that? Back in August?
Probably. I think it was actually early in the fall. Drafted first. Carson Beck or Jalen Milroe. Who do you think you took?
Beck.
Yeah, I took Milroe. That could be close. And Milroe hasn't announced yet what his plans are in terms of coming back. Some other ones. And I did this one last week with Coop while you were out. I said the number too high, but I said Bill Belichick will win 9 games for UNC. He said under. I should have said 7.5. Oh, this is a good one, Rick. Riley Leonard is drafted before Cam Ward. Guess what you said?
Cam Ward?
No, you said Riley Leonard. That's from last summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Denzel Burke is taken in the first round. You said yes. I said no. I'm going to make a lot of money, Claire. There's a chance he's got a ball out. I don't know how he played this weekend, but Ohio State won pretty convincingly. And the only other one I'll mention real quick, let me see what because Justin Jefferson, the guy you drafted, had a huge day again yesterday. I want to see what his season totals are so far. Justin Jefferson has 1,387 yards, 10 touchdowns, 92 catches so far this season. And I mentioned that, Rick, because we made $1 bet this summer. Justin Jefferson gets at least 1,350 receiving yards in 2024. You said under because you were worried about Sam Darnold. I already won 100 pennies. Man, you better get your act together, sir. You got a lot of work to catch up on.
Yeah. It's going to be a long pre-draft process. We're going to be betting dollars left and right.
All right. Feel good about that. All right. That's it. That's all we got. A little quick and easy and breezy podcast here. A couple days before Christmas, 122 days before the draft. That's episode 209, Rick. You going to take the rest of the week off or you got some side jobs to do?
I have a lot of side jobs. I have 3 other meetings today.
Sweet mercy alive. All right, we'll let you get to it. Thanks as always to my guy, Rick. Thanks to Claire for producing. Thanks to all you guys who watch, listen, and comment. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. And this will be it for this week, but we'll see you next week. Have a good weekend, everybody.